Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast. You're listening to I Hate Being Sober, Season 1, Episode 6, Polycast, a polyamorous journey with Cely. If this is your first time listening, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you have a chance, check out our social media. All links can be found in the description. And with that, on to the Polycast.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to
I Hate Being Sober!
And now our host, Duck!
Hey everybody, welcome to I Hate Being Sober. This is Duck. I am here with my special guest, Cely, and we have a very awesome topic today. Thank you so much for being so brave to come out and talk about this, because I've read the book now. I know that there is a stigma attached to it. We are going to talk about the fact that you are polyamorous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on this. I appreciate it. How would you explain polyamory to somebody who is not polyamorous or has never heard of it before?
I believe, as it was introduced to me, that polyamory just allows you to explore romantic or sexual emotions towards more than one human being. And you're not limited or constricted to only being with one person or only speaking to one person or dating or whatever that looks like for the individual.
And for you, you've been doing this for how long?
I've been in my open relationship for 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I was in 2 consecutive, very monogamous relationships. And those lasted in total probably 6 years. So I got kind of my taste for what that would be like, and I didn't like it too much. The guys I was with, they were very possessive, and my individual needs were not met. And it would be super basic stuff that I've thought about since I was a child. For example, since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to keep my last name and give my child my last name. That is something that has stuck with me for my whole life. And in those relationships, that was not allowed. And I was told, you're going to change your mind. I'm going to give you my name, that kind of conversation. I wasn't allowed to really express any part of myself, including my sexuality, which if you're dating a straight dude, typically, if you're bisexual, they either, 1, only want you to have sex with other girls, or 2, not have sex with anyone at all, ever, outside of them and only them. And the mentality is if we're gonna get married, your whole other side of your sexuality basically doesn't exist, and that can create kind of an erasure, I think, in a person.
What was it again?
Erasure?
What's that?
Erasure is when you totally omit an entire part of someone's identity.
100%. Well, let's kind of go back real quick and talk about that, because we've talked a little bit, but you were raised in a household with not as much love as should have probably been there. And you have said that that has affected your perspective on monogamy, because your parents weren't in a very loving relationship, and that definitely affected you seeing that on a daily basis.
Yes. With my parents specifically, they're still together. They never got divorced. There was a lot of talk of divorce and I'm gonna leave you, and I'm that kind of conversation. But at the end of the day, my dad cannot survive without my mom, and my mom cannot survive without my dad. And I think a lot of monogamous people put themselves in those kinds of relationships where they totally depend on someone for money, housing, citizenship. My mother was illegal when she came, and she married my dad and got a green card. And that was a very positive thing for her because it allowed her to stay in the States and have me. But the problem with that is I think she felt she owed my dad as a result. And my dad probably feels like she owes him as well. But in turn, he owes her because she cooks and she cleans and she takes care of the kids. And it's supposed to be a positive, symbiotic relationship.
Well, it's the traditional nuclear family kind of idea that was, the Rockwellian 1950s thing. And I know you enough to know that you are, number 1, a feminist, and number 2, very independent. And that does not really fit well with those, because we talked about before the Hispanic culture and how girls are raised to be that, just the homemaker. Mm-hmm. And that's all they're supposed to aspire to, and everything is surrounded by that. And that was shocking. I'm very white. I told you this.
I'm Betty White.
I'm very, very white. And so hearing that from you and my friend Javi was shocking to me, but also made sense too, because I'm like, you know what? Even, people who are conservative stick to those traditional values. And that's what people are aspiring to be a lot of the times. And it is sad because we live in an age where you can do what you want.
Yes.
And women need to break that glass ceiling.
And more importantly, women need to get educated. My mother, when she grew up, I don't think she even got past 6th grade, honestly. And she came here and didn't know English and was trying to go to high school, and she dropped out. My dad dropped out too because he had to work, and his dad wanted him to work. He didn't want him to go to school, and education was never really pressed on my family. And as I'm growing older, the more that I meet educated people that go to college and have the college experience, I continually see people who view monogamy as restrictive and view marriage as it takes away the essence of what a female can be because it limits them to only look towards marriage. And a lot of women, when they go to college, they're either looking for a husband or looking for a degree and looking for someone who appreciates, all of the independence and all of whatever that person wants to do. You typically have to find a partner that wants the same things as you.
And we need to specify real quick, just because somebody's polyamorous, that doesn't mean they can't have a partner. And we're going to get into that down the line here because that's very important. Everyone wants somebody who's got their back, but there's more to it. The other thing I want to talk about is your previous relationship was not good or healthy in any way, shape, or form.
Both of them were not good or healthy.
Yes, and we don't have to get into the terrible details, but the basics of it, she dated somebody who was a drug addict and went to jail a few times. And basically, he wanted to keep her down so she would always have his back so he could go out and do what he wanted. And through that, you learned that I want to be independent and I don't want to be stuck into this rut of the traditional mindset of I'm just going to sit at home and see what he does tonight and then go bail him out of jail or whatever might need to happen. So I'm sure that played into your choice to become polyamorous in many ways.
Yes, I also was confused a lot of the time as a child because I didn't understand why anyone would want to only be with one person, because human beings are disappointing and they hurt you, and where are you going to run to whenever that person finally breaks your heart or finally isn't there for you in the time that you need them, And so I think polyamory allows you to have people to fall back on that aren't your primary partner, that maybe they see you as a friend and they truly just want you to have the best for yourself. They guide you in that way. But I've only been so lucky to have people like that in my life. I do know there's a lot of toxicity when it comes to bringing more people into your relationship, and not everybody has the same ideals as you do. I was actually watching the Therapy for Gamers podcast. I wish I remembered who it was because it was Twitch people. But the girl that was talking, she tried to bring other people into her and her primary's relationship, and they would do things to make her feel excluded from the relationship. So you don't want to put your trust in the wrong hands, obviously. And that's with any relationship, either monogamous or polyamorous.
So let's talk about what the book is first, so people know, because it's wonderful. It's got a wonderful title.
The title is The Ethical Slut.
The Ethical Slut. Come on. That is so great. Now, in the first chapter of the book, it talks about being a slut. You are a slut. That is what it describes you as. And the problem is everyone's going to think immediately, oh, you just want to fuck everyone. That has nothing to do with this. You can fuck everyone if you want, but that doesn't mean...
But you don't have to.
You don't have to. The other thing is, I think slut is nasty. I you know me, I'm crass. I say whatever the fuck I want. I think
Comedy world.
I prefer to be called a whore, I think, because it just sounds so much better than a slut. And I've always thought of myself as a whore also, so I'm fine with that. But slut, I'm just I don't know.
Basic.
In your mindset, what do you consider yourself a slut? Do you go by that name, or do you not use that at all?
I don't tend to use that kind of language because it automatically has a negative connotation to it.
Right.
I also talk to people that have a very positive connotation to the word slut, and they kind of just run with it, and I don't relate to that either. So I don't even really use that word. If I'm gonna describe myself, I'm just gonna be yeah, I'm flirty and I'm cute and what's up?
And you're always very open. You're I'm in an open relationship. It is what it is,
That's typically the first thing I tell. If I'm getting vibes from anybody and I'm worried that I might be leading them on, or I need to have a conversation about feelings, I will tell them right off the bat, I'm in an open relationship, I have a boyfriend, he calls me his girlfriend, if you're cool with that, then
exactly,
that's fine.
And that sets the groundwork for if there was to be a relationship that was built out of it. Because you're not going to change. This is a choice, and I can guarantee there are people that you probably talk to who come up against it, and go, I'm going to change you. I'm going to be the one. I'm going to get you to leave your boyfriend. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And the truth is, you've made a decision that this is your lifestyle. This is what you want to do.
And I really appreciate my partner a whole bunch. They've taught me so many good things, and they treat me fairly well, in my opinion. I don't really have to worry about, like, you know, calling him when I'm out and about. Like, I can just go and hang out with my friends and not really give a shit, you know. And I have cousins, and then I have my sister, and they were in monogamous relationships. And it's pretty much like, where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? Like, text me back. What are you doing? Like, I miss you. Like, that kind of thing. I don't feel I'm so pressed about having to miss someone all the time or having to check in on someone all the time.
Right.
I'm pretty much, like, able to do whatever I want and not even think about it, honestly.
And that's, for me, whenever you introduced the concept to me. I mean, honestly, before we started talking, I had no idea what it was. And immediately I wanted to read the book because I like talking to you. And I'm like, well, she's explaining this to me. So let me do the research and let me see what this is about. And my God, did the book blow my fucking mind. Between that and the Midnight Gospel in the last month, I'm just in a different world. But I will say...
Midnight Gospel is really good.
So good. But the jealousy thing, that's the thing that I'm not super jealous. I've never have been. I'm kind of an arm candy guy. Like, if my girl looks good, I'm fine with other guys looking at her. But I have been cheated on in at least half of the relationships I've been in. Mm-hmm. So I have to go back and go, what was it about me or that relationship?
And it's not about you.
Well, exactly. They wanted to sleep with other people, and then eventually it happened. And if you're polyamorous, you have the right to do that. There is an understanding up front.
Now, I wouldn't say it's a right, because you do have to be ethical about it if you don't want to hurt someone. You have to set boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, you're pretty much allowing anything to happen, and you're not going to be able to say 100% of the time, like, I'm okay with this. This is fine. Like, we're human. We have emotions and we have feelings. So you have to talk about them.
The thing I like is it's a selfish mindset. And I know people, that's the first thing they hate. Because anyone I've talked to about this is just like, it's so selfish. It's so self-centered. And I'm like,
is it?
Second paragraph of the book says it right off the bat. This is a selfish perspective on life. But it's different and it's worth being here. And we're going to explain to you why. And so then chapter after chapter explains to you. But they do talk often about jealousy. And jealousy still exists. There's no way to get through that. They talk about how to kind of approach that, but you have to accept up front, this is what you want to do. You're still going to come up against those conversations, those arguments, those issues, but it's how you're going to work through them differently than you would a monogamous relationship. And also, the thing I like the most about the book, there were two things, but this one was talking about you have to deal with your own emotions. You cannot project your emotions on this other person. That
Absolutely
is not their job. They're there, they love you, they care for you, but at the end of the day, you are the one who's required to deal with your emotions, which is so much different. And when I think of monogamy, the problem is we take somebody and we put them on this pedestal. They are the be-all, end-all. They're supposed to meet every single need that you have. Mm-hmm. And they're
the best thing ever, usually.
And that's the thing, is you put them up there, and the truth is nobody can stay on that pedestal. Nobody.
Not forever.
No. And it's a realistic approach to it. It's saying, this person has faults, and they have issues too. And I realize that. This leads into the second thing I really like, is the fact that you look to many people to meet your needs. And that's not sexually. Once again, we need to specify. It's not a sexual thing.
Yeah, because I can have sex with anyone.
Exactly. But the thing that opened it up is we talked about intimacy. And I said, well, how can you have intimacy? And you immediately said, I'm intimate. I have intimacy. And I was like, that's fair. All right, what does that mean? And the thing is, we confuse intimacy and love and sex. So you take those three things, and once again, you have this person on this pedestal. But that's not true. We go to many people in our life to meet many different needs. I talk to Jake because I trust him and respect him because he's got sage-like wisdom. Mm-hmm. I talk to Javi, and me and him have a more personal conversations where we both have a lot of the same fears and trepidations, and we help each other work through them. My best friend Ben, I go to him for wisdom also, and I go, what do you know that I don't know? Then he tells me, and I don't fucking listen to him because I'm stubborn. I talk to you. We talk about this. We talk about your sobriety. We talk to my friend Jesse. We just talk nonsense. You go to all these different people in your life.
Every day.
For different needs, for different things, different aspects. Some people you can be more open with. Other people you can be more, stern with. Everyone has a different relationship. I have people where I'm the big brother. And then there's people I look up to who know stuff that I don't know. And so they're that to me. Do you think that sounds about right for whenever? What it comes down to is you get your needs met by many people instead
Yes.
of one specific person.
Yes. And I don't limit myself to thinking that I have to have sex with them in order to get them to open up to me. That might be different for someone else. I mean, my view of sex is, like, I can either have sex with anyone and, like, fuck them or, like, whatever that might look like, or I can, like, make love with someone and it be, like, super vulnerable and super intimate because the friendship or the relationship that I have with them is a very strong one. And if I want to stop, I can stop. I don't necessarily feel pressured to, like, do anything or perform any kind of way for someone just because I've been open with that person up until that point. And if I'm open with them again, they'll recognize it. So I think part of being in these relationships and creating intimacy is just being honest. I think you lose intimacy when you stop being honest with someone. And you never know when someone stops telling you the truth.
That's crazy that you say that, because that really does define it in a different way. Because like I said, I'm still in the monogamous mindset of, like, these things all work together and it's only going to be one person. But the truth is, it also kind of helped too, because, like, I get sad sometimes, I get lonely, I've been single for a long time. And then I think, well, this person is going to be the one. And then I put a bunch of hopes and dreams in that person. But the truth is, they're not going to be the one. And you never know what's going to come through the relationship. To kind of go like, well, yeah, they're great, but I can also talk to this person and this person, this person. And for me, I'm a big flirt. I love flirting. It's one of my favorite things. I love to flirt. And so that is one of the biggest things. And when I get into a relationship, I stop flirting. And it's a huge part of my personality. One of the things I love is the idea of sexual energy. And this book talks about that. And I was just like, you guys got it so fucking right. Sexual energy, whether it's through flirting or actual sex or just getting people to come in, it's pure,
doing nice things for people. It's
charisma. It attracts people to you. The problem is, men, we're trained to think it's a scoring game. It's literally like, I scored. I got this girl and this girl. You're putting notches in the bedpost.
And that objectifies people.
Oh my God, I never even thought about that. You were so fucking right. Because sadly, that is how our brain works. Because a lot of the time as a man, and I can say this, we're like, well, she better look pretty and not talk. That's how men feel. And I'm sure you've heard that multiple times. But the truth is, when you fall for somebody, you should be attracted to them, their personality, just the way they move, little idiosyncrasies, stuff like that.
Including their friend group. There's a ton of red flags just by looking at someone's friend group.
Absolutely, because you're an amalgamation of 5 people closest to you. I believe that, too.
You said the second thing you loved about the book?
Oh,
the
exchange of sexual energy. That's what I like, because what that does is it says it's okay to be flirty, it's okay to be intelligent, it's okay to have somebody look at you and be like, hey, I kind of dig that person.
It's okay to be desired by people.
But you don't have to act upon it, because what is your end game? Your end game is not going to always be, I need to fuck this person. That's where our mentality is.
Yeah.
But the truth is, your end game could just be the flirt. It could be the fun of that. It could be the interaction. It could be the friendship. It could be whatever you want.
I also think a lot of people stop performing for their partner or whoever they're interested in once they've had sex with them.
And then it's the real version of them. Because like you're saying, it's putting on a face. It's a facade. It's getting them attracted to you, and then, oh, we did it. Because that's not the be-all, end-all of this. And that's the problem, is we've been trained to think that's what it is. It makes perfect
I'm glad
sense.
you read the book.
Oh, yeah. It was very enlightening. Very enlightening. And honestly, it changed my life. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've only read half of it, though. I don't think you finished it either. So
I'm missing like 30 pages.
Yeah.
But I got the point.
Yeah, I got the point right away, pretty much.
Kind of rambles on about examples and like what this is supposed to look like, because there honestly isn't that much literature on it other than Greek orgies and like that kind of culture and like paganism and all that, which a lot of people think we've evolved and grown from, but really it's only changed and it's only evolved. And like I said before, I'm finding like a lot of educated college kids that don't see a point in monogamy anymore just because it limits a person to only thinking one type of way and having one type of life with someone. Because usually once you marry someone, you're like, all right, we're going to have these 2 jobs and we're going to buy this house and we're going to have these babies and have this car and maybe get a dog and have the picket fence. And that's like everyone's dream, is just to have like the perfect life. But we don't have that anymore. And being independent and being a female that's independent, I'm not going to think about having kids anytime soon just because it would fuck up my life, for lack of better terms. My mom had kids and she was angry when she had her kids. because she barely knew English and she wanted to get educated and she felt her potential like never really met its peak ever. And she pushed that on me. And I don't want to push any of those things on my kids. I want my kids to have a good life and be good people. If they go to college, I don't fucking care. I just want them to be good people at the end of the day. And I want to be able to support them in whatever they do, which is not something that I was really allowed. I felt like I owed my parents my life and not the other way around.
So a lot of people do think it's the younger generation that are doing this. Y'all are more open about it. But there's always been there's a generation between us, right? So my generation is more closeted about a lot of things, but they've definitely experimented. Y'all are more open, which already gives you an advantage because you say, hey, this is what I'm doing. So you're kind of pirates, you're kind of out there in uncharted waters, you're not sure. And the other thing is you do have to be kind of closeted about this because if you open up about it,
people judge
hard and judge very hard. All right, so let's talk a bit about what your relationship's like. So you've been with your boyfriend for a year and a half, almost 2 years, right? How did y'all meet?
I was on Tinder.
Ooh, girl. It's fine.
That's popular. That's popular now.
And were you successful?
Well, we're about to go into a story.
All right, hit it.
When I ended up breaking up with that dude, my second boyfriend or whatever, I didn't want to be in a relationship. Surprise, surprise. I was like, fuck this, fuck men, fuck everybody. I'm gonna fuck everybody. So, like, I got on Tinder and I started meeting people and I met mostly, like, white dudes, apparently, because it's, like, the only people that swipe right on me. Or, like, drug dealers. Like, really ghetto drug dealers. I knew that if I met up with those people, I would just end up in a shittier life, just like I was in. So I'm pretty much stuck to what I knew, which is white boys that are uncultured and don't, like, stray outside of their own. And then I, like, dated this non-binary person, and that was cool. But then they stopped talking to me, and, like, I met my current partner in October, which was super strange because we matched in October, and the first time I met him was like a couple days before my birthday, and then he took me out for my birthday, and then we went out for his birthday, which was also in October, and so we're like, Libras,
hanging out.
So that was cool, but we didn't start off saying like we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We went on a few dates, and I have this rule where like I don't kiss anybody the first time that I meet them.
Smart. And
that was one of his things, was he wanted a kiss at the end of our first date. And I was like, maybe on our second date. Like, settle down, sir. And then we, like, had sex. And I was cool with it just being like, you know, I like you and you like me. And we're having sex. And it's over now. But he told me he wanted me to be one of his partners. And I had known about his prior partners prior to this, because we talked about it on our dates, and he said he was poly, and I was like, okay, that could work for me, because I'm not trying to be strapped down to anybody. Like, we're cool. And so we didn't start off with the labels, and I actually caught feelings for him, I think, a little bit earlier than he caught feelings for me, because I would always refer to him as my not boyfriend to, like, the Hyena staff. And then one day, I walked in the Hyenas, and I was like, you guys, my not boyfriend called me his girlfriend. And they were like, what? That's crazy. And I was like, yeah, it's insane. And so I was like, cool, we're boyfriend and girlfriend now. And when I go out with him, he's like, yeah, this is my girl or whatever. And like, that's cool. But again, I'm not like restricted to only seeing him. I kept Tindering. I actually deleted Tinder like last week because I think it's kind of annoying now, and it's just, we're in this coronavirus and nobody really wants to meet up with each other, and if you meet up with someone, that's a huge risk to yourself, you know, so I just kind of was like, I'm only going to hang out with people that I know.
But I could tell when you were just talking about your boyfriend there, you kind of lit up. I could see it in your eyes. Like, you legit like him and love him. Like, you have those feelings. And it was really sweet because you have a little glow right now, even just thinking about him. So, it's super sweet. No, it's not stupid because people need to realize this, because people are sitting there going like, well, how can she say she loves her boyfriend, and I can see it right now, but yet she was on Tinder and fucking other guys, or whatever?
Yeah.
So how does that work? But the truth is, you have a loving, intimate relationship with him. But You had rules that you set out in place. And he has his own moral code, and you have your own moral code. And you set that up. And I'm sure you two have had the conversation. Like, you do have expectations of each other, I'm sure. Whatever that may be. That's respect is what that is.
That's part of it, actually. We didn't talk about all of the rules when we first started dating. It was more like, if you'd like to date me, I will go on dates with you, and that kind of thing. But more recently, we did have a conversation because I had gotten my heart broken by my best friend, and she decided she no longer wanted to be my friend and only wanted to hang out with him. And that bothered me a whole bunch. I was like, this girl is literally excluding me from y'all's friendship. She probably wants to fuck you and have you all to herself. And
vindictiveness.
Very vindictive. And when I brought up that point, she was like, I don't want to fuck your boyfriend.
She probably wants to fuck your boyfriend.
I'm just like, dude, you can, but don't exclude me in the process. For you to like actively make me feel pain means that you don't respect me. When I talked to him about it, he was just like, well, that's probably not what she wants. She probably wants to fuck you, and you haven't. And, you know, there's like a whole bunch of issues that y'all obviously haven't been talking about during your friendship, and now it's over. So I don't know what to tell you.
so some form of jealousy led to vindictiveness is what happened there. So there was some fear there, is what you're saying.
On my end, for sure.
But you talked to him. You didn't hold it inside. You didn't keep it to yourself. You didn't let it fester. You went to him and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I need you to soundboard with me, and I need you to know, as my primary partner, this would be an issue for me.
Yeah, and he also explained he would never sleep with any of my friends.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's fine. And in turn, I'm not going to sleep with any of his friends because they're his friends. Like,
right.
There's obviously a bunch of stuff between them. I'm only allowed to see his part of his life and be a part of his life. If they want me to be a part of theirs, they're going to have to, like, talk to him about it, obviously.
Right.
And I've met his prior partners, like, the ones prior to me, and none of them have come on to me or, like, tried to hit on me. They're just very kind people, and I can rely on them like family. Like, if I need something, I can call them.
And so there's a mutual respect there that doesn't allow jealousy to build. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people doing this who are bad people. There are people who are polyamorous simply to get laid. That's all. And they're just saying, I'm poly, and then they're going and doing
fucking
terrible
all these
things.
People.
But if you truly have a moral standard about what you agree you will and will not do, and especially with a primary partner, we keep saying that over and over again, that means your boyfriend and you are together.
Yes.
You have other people, but they're not primary partners. They might be partners, or they might be friends, or whatever they might be. And there might be benefits to that. But when you say, I'm in a relationship, it's your boyfriend. That's it. Period. Done.
Yes.
That's your primary. But you still have the option, like you said, to go and do what you want. And you said that you've met your boyfriend's partners or others that he's, with and he has a relationship with. What was that like the first time that happened? Was it nerve-wracking? Had to have been, right?
I was kind of blindsided because I didn't know I was going to meet them all at the same time.
Oh, was it like a family reunion? What the fuck happened? Like, we're all going to fucking Six Flags. Let's go.
Yeah. The most recent time, because he actually has started to date another girl, and I hadn't met her. So that person was there, and I was there, and then the other two partners were there. And then he goes to all of us, and he's like, you all are my partners. And I was like, okay, so this is the girl you're talking about. Cool. Cool. Thanks for the heads up. I'm here.
So how did that feel?
I was just kind of nervous, and I didn't really know what to say. My server personality kicked in, and I'm like, hey, you want to hit my weed? Like, can I get you something? Can I get you a beer? Anything. Like, I'm very, like, I want to please other people. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I reacted. But how I felt about it, I don't really remember. I just was like, okay, I accept this. And then I moved on. Like, It wasn't like I really, like, had any true, like, oh, this is bad, this is good, I don't want to be here, I do want to be here. It wasn't an outward expression of an action, just accepting the situation for what it is.
Wow, that is intense, because that is part of this, is the acceptance aspect of it, because you could sit there and spin your wheels in your head about anything. But people who are in monogamous relationships who get jealous, they definitely spin their wheels, and they sit there and they really focus on it, and you can do that until you're just a mess, because jealousy can lead to terrible things. The worst being...
You could kill someone.
Murder, exactly. So when you accept that jealousy, you're going to remove that, and you say, I accept this, That's a big thing because it automatically changes everything. And that doesn't mean you won't be that way, but when you can kind of take that out of your emotions and kind of categorize it, I can't imagine how powerful that is to have control over fear that way. It's got to be unbelievably empowering.
That doesn't go to say that I don't have insecure moments about my relationship. We were talking about being Christian and stuff. And I think that's a way for people to compartmentalize their positive thoughts and their negative thoughts. But sometimes the enemy will come in and tell me they're going to leave you and like all these horrible things of like why I'm not good enough and why I'm not this and blah, blah, blah. I just have to like remind myself, I made this choice. I'm going to live with it and I'm going to keep walking in it. I can't live in fear of my choices because I'm the one making them. I'm the one who has the choice to even make them. So why not be grateful for that?
Right.
Like, I could be attached to an asshole right now.
Like you said, your boyfriend's kind and caring and understanding and willing to listen. But like we also talked about earlier, a big part of this is owning your own emotions and not trying to project them or put them on somebody else. You can talk through them. That's fine. And you can let people know how you feel. But at the end of the day, you have to deal with the thing that you feel. And that's very empowering too. To say that you're a full person by yourself, being independent of anyone else. And the problem is we always talk about people want to get into a relationship because they think somebody else is going to fulfill them. They feel empty inside, and this person is going to make up all the differences. That is not healthy. That is a toxic mindset. The thing I like about this mindset is I'm a full person by myself, and I'm going to be that full person regardless of what situation's going on. So, do you feel that way? Do you feel like a whole person?
I feel like an individual. There's parts of my personality that I've been able to express fully because I'm not limited by my partner. And when I bring a new project or idea or I need help on something, that person helps me out to the fullest extent that they can, as opposed to the extent that their own motives let them. You could be in a monogamous relationship where your partner is supporting your education, which is actually very common. And if you don't finish your degree, you owe the fuck out of them.
Right.
You know, versus I can go and get my own education and pay for it all on my own and get support for, you know, study groups or whatever and just feel free to pause or go as I please with that kind of thing. And that's something simple as like going and get your degree. When it comes to like living situations, I've found that I don't want to live with him because I think that'll limit my idea of who I can be a whole bunch. If I start living with them, if I live with other people or live by myself, I can furnish things however I want. I can have liquor in the cabinets. I can smoke as much as I want. You know, if I want to do drugs, I'll go and do drugs. Like, I'm not going to be disappointing someone by going and doing the drugs.
And it's important to mention that because your boyfriend is sober. He doesn't do any of those
Yeah,
things.
he actually only smokes cigarettes. He used to smoke weed in college, but he never really liked how it made him feel. So he was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
And it's so funny that you say that because in a traditional relationship, that would not fly. That would be a
Right.
huge point of contention.
That was actually in my first relationship with my ex-fiance. He would tell me not to smoke weed, and I wouldn't smoke weed because I was way against it. Then he'd go and hang out with his friends and get blazed, and then I would feel left out because I don't like drugs. I'm not doing drugs. He's doing drugs without me. I can't be there without getting pissed off about it. Then they went into the military and I stopped giving a fuck and I was smoking like all the weed I could possibly have.
All the weeds.
All the weed.
All the weeds.
And he turned around and flipped a switch on me because he couldn't smoke because he was in the military and I was smoking all the time and suddenly I was a bad person.
And you were gaining your independence, too.
Yeah.
Evidently, that made him feel inferior in some way and insecure in some way. Knowing the person that I know now, that is very important to you. That you
Weed is so important to me.
I was going to say weed is very important to you, but your independence is very, very important to you. Because, like I said, you want to be the best version of yourself that you can be. You're always striving to do so. You're always working on stuff.
And that's what my parents wanted for me anyway, was not to rely on a man ever for any reason. Why would I start now?
Right.
Why did I start in the beginning, even?
Well, I think it's important to say that, too, because, like you said, the owing somebody something. I know that's a big point of contention for you for other reasons, too. And so you want to make your own way by yourself. You want to be that boss. You want to be in control. You want to be like, I got this. Because we need to talk a little bit about what people have misconceptions about in polyamory. And hopefully this is enlightening people. I know there's people out there listening right now are getting angry. But like, you really got to read the book. You really do. And you've got to talk to somebody who's kind enough to talk about it. So thank you. And explain, because if I hadn't been explained it by you, I don't know if I would have been open to this concept, because you were very kind about it, but you were very blunt about it. You're like, this is the way it works. Boom, 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 boom. And I question it, and you say, well, that's not right. So I know people listening have a million questions about how this works. So,
You're always going to have questions, but if you want kind of like an image as to what it should look like, I think I have a very healthy relationship. I've seen poly couples that are not healthy, and I don't want to be associated with those people by any means. So I do make it to a point to hang out with, certain types of poly people. I have a friend, I was explaining to him some like poly queerl from another friend group that I'm in, and he was like, you need to stop hanging out with all them queer ass motherfuckers. Like, they're just gonna, they have like weird labels, and like, I'm not against labels or anybody that's non-binary or whatever box you want to put yourself in. But that guy was like, I don't fuck with none of them motherfuckers, because it can get really dramatic whenever you start dealing with more immature types or people that don't even know themselves yet. You don't want to involve yourself with people that barely know themselves, especially when I'm trying to find myself at the same time.
Absolutely, because you can get involved in that toxicity, and then you're back to square one again.
And you're surrounding yourself with bad people, realize if you put yourself in a poly group, mind you, not everyone is a throuple or quad or has multiple people in the relationship. It doesn't have to be that way. It can just be one singular person dating another singular person, and they date other people. There's also one that I was reading about where it's called a monogamish couple, and that's like a don't ask, don't tell situation. I know you're sleeping with other people, just don't tell me about it. I don't want to know. You have to define what kind of relationship you want to have ultimately with yourself, not anyone else. You're the only person that can make you happy. And that kind of brings me to like the analogy that I got from that therapy for gamers on Twitch. The story the doctor was telling was that he has a 2-year-old, and they were having eggs for breakfast. And the 2-year-old goes, Daddy, can I have some of your eggs? And he's like, sure, honey, you can. And then he goes, can I have some of your eggs? And she's like, no, Daddy, these eggs are mine. And I think when you're thinking selfishly in polyamorous relationships, it can kind of look like you're dealing with a toddler, essentially, because they won't give you the same respect or the same freedoms that you're allowing them. And there's a ton of those kinds of relationships. Daddy-dom relationships where, the daddy can have like all these girlfriends, and the girlfriends are expected to only be with the daddy. Like, that's not positive or symbiotic by any means.
It sounds like a pimp with his hose.
Pimp and hose.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, I also consider like a pimp and his hose like a type of polyamorous relationship, because all these hoes know about each other, and it's a very open
It's a very
thing.
bad version of it.
Yeah, it's awful.
Hey everyone, it's just Doc jumping in here to say thank you again for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, head on over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you get a chance, head on over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that, back to the Polycast.
Yeah, you definitely have to like define to yourself what you want out of a relationship.
Right.
And nobody can tell that to you.
And like you said, there are many different versions of this too. But like you said, me and you started by this conversation. Now, people think I'm weird. I don't think if I have a girlfriend and she's with a girl, it's cheating. But I did, up until we had this conversation, think that if she was with another guy, it was cheating. And you were the first one who could understand this, because most people just look at me like I'm fucking insane when I say it. But you said, well, that's not fair. And I was like, ooh, all right, where's this going?
It isn't fair.
And then I was like, well, what do you mean by that? You're like, you're putting a limit on what you allow her to do, so therefore you're trying to control her. And I was like, oh, you said it nicer than that. But basically that's what you said. And I was like, shit, she's kind of right. So that was what opened up my mind to go, what is this? Is it out of fear that I would feel that way? Because I don't know why I don't think it's not cheating. I don't know why. You know what I mean? I was in a relationship once where that was just the way it was. And I was just like, okay, I accepted it. And I think my thing was always, it was the fear of pregnancy. But within this lifestyle, you take precautions against pregnancy.
Yes.
You take big precautions. That doesn't even mean that people you're sexually attracted to you even have intercourse. You could do other things. And that's the biggest thing. Like, maybe you have stipulations on that in your relationship, too. You never know. Like, you know that your partner goes out and they're with somebody else, but you're just like, well, you can't do this one thing because that's where we're at. Or just... Protection
is the biggest thing, because I just want to, like, do a PSA right here, because you shouldn't trust any fucking bunny. But I was having sex with one person, while I was single, and I was under the impression that we were only having sex with each other, because I never had that conversation with them, because they were probably hiding it from me. They went and fucked someone, and the next time that we had sex, I had an STD.
Fun,
and it was
right?
fucking awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you would have told me, I would have told you to wear a condom. But you didn't want to wear a condom, so you never told me. So that's why I'm just like, even in, like, monogamous relationships, you can get an STD.
Absolutely.
You can get pregnant. You can fuck someone up. Plenty of marriages have been destroyed by bastard children, you know? It's not anything that you can 100% avoid, but you can definitely make the intention to avoid.
Absolutely. I was in a relationship, and yeah, I should have known that she was going to cheat on me, because she told me once point blank, I'm going to cheat on you. And I was like, no,
Red
you won't.
flag right there.
Oh, she was nuts, but that pussy was amazing.
Oh, God.
It was crazy white trash pussy. It was so good. One day I was working at the nursing home, and I went to take a piss, and it burnt like hell. And I was like, I was like, well, I'm only fucking her. So I put together real quick that she was fucking her ex, and then I went and got a test. She gave me chlamydia.
My God.
Then it became like, well, then you get rid of it with one pill. But yeah, it was...
But the pain.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
In that situation, too, I had to go to the fucking hospital. That's how much pain I was in, and I had no idea why. I thought, like, I was developing, like, a cyst.
Ooh.
You know?
That's pain. Ugh. Oh, God.
And so it's better to be open and be clear, and every time you're having sex with someone, you better wear a fucking condom, right. Or you better have some fucking game plan. Also, we get tested. We don't get tested together. I just go and get tested by myself. So that's my own precaution that I'm going to make. And it's something that I want to impede on my sister, because I'm older than her and she's a growing woman. If I want her to have a healthy sex life, I should teach her what that looks like.
Right, because you really are her role model. Like,
yeah.
She looks up to you, and she absolutely adores you, and you're trying to set a good example. But also, not even that, I've seen the way you've talked to her. From a feminist, well, I mean, that's funny, too, because you call her a bitch and stuff like that. But from a feminist point of view, you always talk to her about being a strong woman, and women help women, and being that independent person. And that's very important. But we were talking about different relationships, thruples.
I just call them quads. I'm sure there's, like, better terminology or whatever.
The community does build up around it. I can't remember what I was watching. They talk about this actually lowers your dating pool. It trims down your dating pool a lot because, first of all, you're polyamorous. Boom.
That's half of the population gone.
Boom. That's gone. Because do you really want to have the conversation and try to explain it to somebody? Do you really want to be the person who brings them into this world? That's a lot of work, right? So then on top of that, what's your preference? Boy, girl? Is that only their preference? Boom. 25% gone again. So now, are you bisexual? Boom. Now you got to find somebody. You see what I'm saying? So it does really deplete the dating pool in a lot of ways. And if you want to be in a relationship, and that's what people are probably sitting there going like, somebody who's poly just wants to fuck everyone. That's not true at all. You can if you want. But the truth is, you're in your relationship, but you want to have strong relationships. So maybe you have your primary, but maybe you want a secondary, a third, a fourth, and maybe you still want to go on a date with this other person. It's very difficult sounding to me to schedule that out.
There are people that have scheduling conflicts. I don't think I have that issue because my schedule is, I make it the way I want, and I plan my days off for typically one person. I haven't been dating other people. And I think I've been putting a lot of pressure on my primary because I don't really have an interest in other people right now. And a lot of people have hurt me before. So I'm dealing with all those feelings. And he has to kind of live with me through that, I think, as we see each other. And I feel terrible
Why?
Just because I used to have a very toxic way of dealing with things. And now I don't want to anymore. I'm Latina, and we are very fiery, and we'll kill a bitch. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if we're open, but if you don't tell me about someone, that bitch is dead. That's how it is.
Oh, no. So he does tell you, though?
He does tell me, and when he's going on dates, I know about the dates, and I'm like, oh, have fun. Let me know how it goes, because I, really, really want to know.
It's so weird to think that could be a positive thing, because the way you just said it was not jealous at all. And that's why I have to keep going back to is the jealous, that's the one thing that would really get in the way for me, is that knowing that somebody that I cared about. But you got to get in the mindset of like, well, they're going to go have a good time. They're going to have fun, whatever they're doing. Like, they're opening up to other people. And that, to me, is intriguing to kind of be able to be like, I'm totally okay with this. How do you get to that point, though? Is it trial and error? Or is it acceptance up front? Or is it because the rules are set in place? It's just the way it is.
Both of us are emotionally very shy people. So we haven't brought a whole bunch of people into our lives. And I think that's healthy because I could be like going on a whole bunch of dates. A lot of my friends that I know who are single and don't have boyfriends, they just like date people that ask them out. But I think it's kind of useless to date someone if I truly don't see where that it can go. Maybe I don't explore that as much. Maybe I'm a little jaded and I'm dealing with things, but I'm not at a point where I can like really bring a whole bunch of other people into my relationship, and vice versa. All of his friends and all the partners that he has, he's known them for years or at least some length of time so that I can know them and befriend them and know who they are and not be like worried about who he's hanging out with. I actually know the people that he's hanging out with, and that's really comforting. And I think in a monogamous situation, if you leave some part of someone out and your partner finds out, there's like all of these questions. Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, it'd be over. It'd be over, or it'd be just fighting, and just self-doubt and insecurities. And just, oh my God.
When people use the word cheating, it makes me think that they think the relationship is a game. And I don't think my relationship is a game. I think if I was going to put an image to my relationship, it'd be something stable, like an anvil or an anchor. It's not a game of tic-tac-toe where 3 tries and you lose kind of thing. When you limit your view of what your relationship can be, when it turns into other things, it'll be really hurtful because it's not always going to be perfect. And it's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine and butterflies and honeymoon. It's never going to always be that. In my relationship right now, we've moved past the honeymoon phase, which was a really long time. It lasted a whole year, actually, where I was just like so excited to be there and I was super happy. I am happy, but now I'm dealing with my insecurities and someone actually knowing me well enough to know that I have insecurities, which is not something that a lot of people see when they first meet me. They see a confident, beautiful, strong, intelligent person, but when someone knows you this well, and you see them all the time, and they know your deepest, darkest thoughts, it's easier to access those thoughts, and I have to deal with them. And I don't really want to involve anybody else in that right now. That's not to say that I'm not going to be able to open up to someone else about it later. There was a question that was part of this Therapy for Gamers podcast, and I think it stuck with me, and it's important, and I want to say it. He asked, is there a part of you that doesn't want to be poly? And my response, like right off the bat, writing it out, was I look at monogamy and it is strange. I see people get hurt over and over from cheating when having emotions for other people is extremely normal. People cling to monogamy for security and it's often toxic. Then I said, valuing your relationship over other relationships is important if you're going to be poly. If you're a single person and you identify as a single person, sure, you're not going to value way too many relationships or have a hierarchy of anything. But if you choose to have a primary partner, I think you need to make the steps towards treating that person like they are above other people. And that's something I try to do with acts of love, little gifts or words of affirmation or quality time or however I choose to do that. I pretty much will make sure I have that covered before I'll go to my secondary or whatever other person is in my life. Because this person is first. If they need me, I will fucking be there. No questions asked. Also, a lot of people use monogamy to be an asshole.
Yes.
But there are also poly people that are assholes.
Yes.
You're not going to avoid getting hurt just by being in one kind of relationship or not limiting things. Being hurt is just something that comes with life, and you have to deal with it in the healthiest way possible, or you turn into a terrible person.
There's a lot of unhealthiness out there, and people do get into relationships and they want to consume the other person, or they want to control the other person, or they want to hold them down. It's a very weird power dynamic. Within this, and you talked about it earlier, you bring in whatever kinks you have also. If you want to, like you said, be dominated, that can be part of it. But you also always continue to have your independence. That's so fucking important. That means at any point you can make the decision, I don't want to be with this person anymore, or I can go and get what I need over here, and there's an understanding that that can happen. And so you really do open yourself up more to be yourself. Because if you're just with one person, they can consume you. My last relationship, I didn't know who the fuck I was by the end of it. It was a goddamn nightmare. But the point is, through that, you can totally lose yourself, especially whenever you've tied yourself to one person, and that's it. And I like that aspect of this, where you can kind of be like, well, I gotta be myself because I'm putting my best foot forward at all times. And I'm gonna be me. And they're going to accept me.
And anything less than that is garbage. Another point that this girl was talking about was she felt that she was pushing herself in her relationship. And I think that's something that a lot of us find ourselves, poly or mono. We push ourselves for our partner. And with pushing yourself comes two sides. What you want to do and what you don't want to do, right? And I wrote down a few things that I want to do and the things that I don't want to do, because I'm trying to organize my brain, because I'm growing up and my faith is kind of crashing with what I truly want. But with that being said, I'm also realizing that there's a whole sector of polyamorous Christians that I found on Reddit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have it written down. What do you want to do and what do you not want to do?
What I want to do is be close to someone. We all do. I think that's a pretty popular concept. What I don't want to do is move away from familiar things. I don't want to get rid of any part of my personality, and I don't want to move to a new state because my partner has a job there, which I think a lot of people deal with, and what that girl was dealing with at the time. Her boyfriend lives in California, and she lives in Sweden.
Oh, wow.
So she's trying to, she's in a long-distance relationship with someone that she loves, and she wants to be with them, but she doesn't want to leave her home at the same time. What I want is, when I'm in a relationship, I want to gain something. I don't want to lose things. I don't want to give up things to get the things that I want. So there's like two polar opposites there that we all have to kind of work through. Another thing that I want to do is not be limited to one person, but I don't want to get my feelings hurt. And the more people you talk to, the more chances you have of getting your feelings hurt. It's just like the matter of the numbers. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. And what I want to do is put myself first, and I don't want to be selfish. And that's something in my personality that I've been working through, because I'm a people pleaser. I want to make people happy. I want, the light in their eyes to show up whenever I bring them their cup of Jameson,
Yeah.
Server like.
Because they're alcoholics, and they're like, I love Jameson. Let's do this.
You. Bring me more.
Yes, please.
But I still don't want to be selfish trying to get all the things that I want in the process. So now I'm looking at myself and I'm like, okay, I've been selfless for most of my life. This is one of the only times in my life that I've actually been selfish, is with my relationship. And I'm letting that person do their thing. And I'm allowed to do my thing. But I don't know what my thing is yet.
You're definitely finding who you are as a person right now. But that's good, because within finding that, you've given yourself the freedom to have boundaries, make mistakes within it, and understand that things will change based upon that. I think this is way better, though, because most people, let's say you're in a relationship, again, a third one, with somebody who just wanted to control you and manipulate you. How the fuck are you going to know who you are through that? Because you're always constantly going to be wanting to please them, because like you said, you're a people pleaser. You want to give that person what they want. Within this, you can find who you are and be yourself and be the best version of yourself and still be in a committed relationship with somebody who loves you and takes care of you, and you take care of them.
And I can rely on them. And I know what I can rely on them with. I think with monogamy, there's like a blanket of I'm relying on you, and there's no real definition of the in-betweens. Versus with my polyamorous relationship, I know exactly what I can rely on that person upon for. I'm not going to find myself like stranded in the middle of Dallas. I'm always going to have someone to come get me. And I don't really get in a lot of arguments with this person, but even if I am having an argument, I still have all these other people who will come get me and be there for me, essentially. And I'm not limited to just being, oh, is he going to come? Is he coming home? I don't know where I am. Princess in the Tower, knight in shining armor. That's all fake. The knight in shining armor isn't just one person. It's the person in the moment who's being there and helping you. No one can be strong all the time, and no one can be there for you all the time. Sometimes you have to be there for them. I think a lot of monogamous couples, it's a whole lot of, this is the strong This is the strong person.
No, it fit the way you worded it.
This is the strong person. This is the weak person. The weak person always has to rely on the strong person for any number of things. Support, help with the kids, money, housing, whatever it may be. And this person takes care of all the other stuff. And I don't want to be missing things when I'm older. I want to know that if I'm hungry, I can feed myself and I can go to my own bed and relax and not worry about needing someone to come get me something and them not being there for that. Because that's just a moment of hurt. When you reach out and it's not there, it's just pain. So now I'm breaking the rules.
Fuck yeah.
I'm
those rules.
living my own life. I'm doing my own thing. Like, fuck anybody else who wants to impede on that. And honestly, it's made me better because I think I'm louder now. Like, I demand.
I can't imagine you not stating your mind. Now, I've only known you for a little while, but it seems like you are very much like, this is my opinion. All right, what do you think? Deal with it if you don't like it. Because I'm still going to have this opinion. But it doesn't mean you're not open to a conversation. Obviously, we've talked for an hour, so you're always open to it, but it's better to be heard than to be a wallflower always. Because the people who are wallflowers, they have to deal with so much more. And then you have to coax them out, you know. It's also gaining your independence. It's time. You want to become the person that you want to be. This is all part of it.
Yeah. It's just hard because I haven't had a really good representation of how to deal with conflict other than my own. Because I think a lot of the people around me handle conflict pretty shittily. And I don't want to do that. I'm kind of dealing with the cycles of depending on a man, poverty, and keeping your trap shut. Those are things that supersede my generation. Those are things that my family has been dealing with for several generations.
Yeah, forever.
And for me to finally kind of break from that and expect something more and different out of my life is scary because my cousins, I have a few cousins here in Dallas. I have a whole bunch of cousins in Guatemala. And I am so different from my cousins in Guatemala. And I visited in December, and they actually thought I was cold. They thought I was really antisocial because the culture is so warm there. You talk to anybody. It's kind of like the streets here. You just walk down the street, someone will start talking to you. Typically, if you're like in the hood or something. If you're in like uptown, no one's going to even look at you.
Not a word.
Not a word.
Not a word.
But it's a little bit warmer there, and they would be super affectionate to me, and I'd be like, this is weird. Don't touch me. Like, what are you doing? It's not that they didn't like it. It's just that they didn't know how to deal with it because I'm their blood.
But you weren't raised there. And there's a big difference. You were raised here. There's a huge difference between Pennsylvania and Texas, where I'm from. Like, when we went to Pennsylvania, I warned my girlfriend at the time. I was like, no one's going to talk to you. You're going to go into a gas station. They're not even going to look at you. No one's going to say hi. I said, it's not like Texas. I said, people are much friendlier here. So it's okay. It's just a cultural difference. You know what I mean?
But I have to be the one to deal with it.
So through this polyamory, are you opening yourself up more to that? To being open to people and loving on that level? You know, until recently, I wasn't able to tell my friends I loved them. It was next to impossible for me. And it really was Jake.
That's toxic.
Jake and Javi pulled me out of it because every time you talk to Jake, if he loves you, he tells you he loves you. He does not hold that shit back. And so now I tell people all the time I love them. Like, if they mean something to me, they truly mean something, I will say I love you. And regardless of how they react to it, they don't have to say it back to me. I don't care. But I need them to know that they matter to me.
Yeah.
And it's very important, especially people that, like my coworkers at State Farm. There's people I work with at Improv that I feel that way. My friends, my family. You know, my family was always comfortable with it. But now I really let them know, like, listen, you mean a lot to me.
We should normalize love.
It should be normalized. And that's the thing is we're afraid to love because, like you said before, we get hurt so easily.
That's a thing that I see on the internet a whole bunch is maybe not so much recently, but when I first started getting on Facebook, there was a lot of angry teenagers that were like, you know, you guys don't even know what love is. You don't know how to truly love someone. It was a very negative conversation about the word love. And like, if you say it too much, it means less. And that's not even a little bit true.
Why is there a limit on it? This is all the love I have in this jar, and that's all I can give, and I better ration that. That's not real. That's not how love works. Love is love.
Love is actually never ending.
Exactly.
Especially in the Christian culture. Love is eternal, and it's forever, and it knows no bounds. In Harry Potter, it was what saved Harry Potter's fucking life. It has absolutely no bounds. And when you perpetuate love that has bounds, it is not love. It's actually just control,
Right.
masquerading itself as something nice and warm and flowery.
Pure manipulation.
It's manipulation. I don't like it at all. And I would never want to do that to anybody else. Because I don't want anyone to do that to me.
Right.
I've been in horrible controlling relationships where that person swore that they loved me and wanted to marry me and give me this absolute amazing life, and they're not able to, and they're not going to be able to.
Because they were trading. It was bartering. It wasn't love. It was, I'll give you this, you give me that. I'll give you this. Oh, wait, you broke the rules, so now you can't have this. And then that toxicity, that's where that comes from. Because it's bartering, that give and take, that is so unhealthy. And then that's when people start making lists. You did this, 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 and this, and they hold it inside instead of talking about it. It's so fucking dangerous, And because, like I said, jealousy and fear are very powerful. And I do think love is the only thing that's more powerful. Love is not in a jar. You can continuously love. And unconditional love, too. If you love somebody, tell them that. Be like, I fucking love you. You mean something to me. You make my life better because you showed up. Sometimes you just know you're going to go see a friend or a family member, and you're just like so fucking excited because you know it's going to be awesome and you're going to have fun. Why wouldn't you want to express to that person, hey, this matters to me? The other thing is like checking up on people. Like I've told you before, one of the nicest things in the world is to ask somebody, how are you? And legit mean that. Mm-hmm. Say, how's your day going? Do you need anything? No one does that. No one. But to express to somebody like, hey...
I say it all the time, and people look at me like I'm so weird.
No, I love it. That's why when you text me, and you're like, how are you? I'm like, boom, that's so great, because you're a true friend. Because only a person who's a friend would ask that. You see what I'm saying? Somebody who cares about you, because they've taken time out of their day.
And I'll read it. I might not have the best answer, but you told me how you feel, and I know your headspace, and that's really important to me.
Exactly, and it changes things.
I mean, it's part of the love thing, which you actually reminded me of a different sector of information that I've made for myself. But let me read this. If you're hurt by people, can someone make a sacrifice to make you less hurt by it? And I think that's a very valid question. That's something that the doctor was pointing out. And I think it's important if you are going to have a polyamorous relationship, you're going to get hurt. And there has to be ways to fix that. That might not be the other person totally fixing it. It might be you two going out and doing something. Or having a conversation as simple as, I don't like this person in your life. These are my reasons why. And it would mean a lot if you cut them out of your life. That's a conversation you can have. And if your partner is not willing to do that for you, you don't need to be with that person. Because they don't care about what you're asking of them. And not even beginning to come to a compromise is toxic. And with that being said, the healthiest thing to do is have a conversation about it. But the healthiest thing you can do is have a conversation about it. I mean, we're all human. We're all gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna do some shit that is super fucking toxic, and I'm not gonna know about it. And then I'm gonna present it to somebody, and they're gonna be like, I'm hurt by this.
Right.
What am I gonna do? Do I care about this person? Okay. What is that gonna look like? What does Cely caring about someone look like? And I'm figuring that out as we go.
And that, too, is to have the conversation up front, to not hold it in, to say, hey, we need to talk about this. Because I'm telling you, so many people, this, hold that stuff inside, and it just becomes evilness.
Cancer.
Oh, it's horrible. And to be able to say, hey, I trust this person enough to be able to have this conversation immediately about something. That doesn't mean you're nitpicking. That means that you need to get it out and about. Like, you need to say, this is what I'm thinking, what are you thinking? That's powerful. Everyone should be fucking doing that. And if you're having that conversation over and over and over again, maybe you're not in a good relationship. Maybe you need to get out of that relationship. But if somebody's willing to hear you out because you're two different people, that's wonderful.
Or you just need to start pulling back from the relationship. You don't have to cut that person out of your life 100%. If you can accept that part of a person's personality, it's upon you to decide how close to it you're going to get.
That's so powerful, because as a monogamous person, the first thing I think is cut off the relationship, because I've put all this hope and trust into one person, and now they failed me in whatever way, or I feel like they have, and immediately I'm just like, I don't want nothing to do with them. What you just said, where you're like, you know what, maybe I just pull back a little bit and see what happens. That is so much more healthy than where my mindset was on that, because What if it was just a moment in time? What if it's just a season? You're having a bad season. My parents have been married for 40 years. There were periods of time they couldn't stand each other. And they love each other. So that's going to happen. It's very wise to say that. Like, that was very profound to me because I never even thought about that. But I'm also coming from the area of, like, I've been in some bad relationships.
Yeah, I've been up people's assholes before, and it doesn't do me any good. There have been times in my current relationship where I've just been like, okay, I'm putting way more effort than I'm getting from this person. I'm just going to relax for like a week.
And it works out.
And it's fine. Eventually they call me and they miss me, and it's okay.
I was going to ask that. Do you think about him all the time? Because you are
I think about him every single day.
Right. So that's the other thing is, like, while you're doing those things, but he's always on your mind.
And I know exactly what he's doing, too. We have such a connection and open honesty that I know exactly what he's doing. Like, I don't have to ask him. He's probably asleep right now. And if he's not asleep, he's on Facebook. And if he hasn't gotten on Facebook yet, he's going to make himself something to eat and watch a movie or watch something on YouTube. It's just, he's a routine person. And I love that about him. And I respect that so much. And it makes me feel better knowing he is a person of routine, because then I don't have to be up his asshole all the time. If he was a chaotic human, it would be a whole different set of emotions. Like, there are people in my life who want to date me and they have children, or they want to date me and they move around a lot, or they want to date me and they live across the country. You know, there's all these problems. I don't have to necessarily be tied to it, like stuck to it either. I can make the choice of like, hey, I'm going to take a step back. Whatever that looks like, I'm just going to take a breath. Maybe I'll go on a date with a random person and just be distracted for a little bit. Maybe I'll just go work out, or I'll start a new project, or I'll learn a new thing. It makes my time without my partner objective instead of subjective to only being around them and looking forward to seeing them all the time. Even though I would like to see them all the time, but I also know it would drive us both insane if we were around each other that much. Because I'm like up here, type A, perfectionist, organized, every thought in my brain. Nobody can give me an argument that I haven't already presented myself. That's how I am.
So you're Batman. That's what you're saying. You figured out every possible scenario. You are Batman.
Yes. And when I don't have a clear answer, it stresses me out. That's why whenever you text me, I'm like, let me know when you're driving, or let me know when you're on your way. And I do that with every single person. I don't give a fuck. I know where you live. I don't know exactly where you live, but I know kind of where you live. If you're not here in a certain amount of time, I'm going to start stressing out because you've probably been in a wreck, and like all these thoughts, you know, spiral out, and I don't want to do that. So I'd rather just have you call me when you leave and text me when you get here, and everything should be fine. I cannot deal with, I'll be there in a minute, or I'll be there in a couple hours. Like, I need a definite time on when we're hanging out, what we're doing, what it's going to look like, because that's just how I am. And my partner is not always like that. They're actually kind of scatterbrained. They've actually had a scheduling conflict with me a few times where I wanted to hang out with them, and I really, really, really wanted to hang out with them, and I was expecting to hang out with them all week, and they forgot that they had work because they were like, oh, I should be free on this day. But then the day came around and they actually found out that they had to work. And that was really disappointing for me. And they did it twice. They made it up to me in a gift, and that was enough for me to know they felt sorry. And this was like their act of service. And that act of service was 125 milligram edible. Hit the spot.
There you go. Well, the only other thing I want to ask, your boyfriend said he's never getting married.
Actually,
did he change his mind recently?
I don't know what happened, but when we first went on a date, he said he doesn't like marriage. Marriage limits women, and that whole conversation about how it's really just like the distribution of the ownership of a woman and the property that the woman can like bring to the table. It was annoying. I was rolling my eyes because I felt like I was being mansplained what that was, and I know very clearly what that all is. And recently they expressed in conversation that they're nowhere near getting married because they want to have all these steps first. And then once that happens, they truly would like to have a companion and get married and like start popping out babies was the words that he used. So I was just like, okay, well, just because you don't want to get married right now doesn't mean you never want to get married. And that's enough for me. And as long as I'm a suitable partner, I don't see why he wouldn't want to get married to me.
That's not going to change this, though. You're still going to be poly within that relationship, correct? In the book, it talks about that being married with your primary partner. You want to have that life where you do all the typical stuff and you bring it together. You know, house, mortgage, cars, blah, 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 fucking bills. But you still can date outside of that. And some people can do it. And a lot of that book is explaining how to do it within that. Because people still get hurt. But it also seems to help a lot of people. Because the stagnation that comes with that, or a long-term relationship, they say that being polyamorous can really light it up. Now, I've always considered the fact that I could be a swinger or something like that someday. It's different than that.
When I grow up, I want to be a swinger.
Well, I'm a total fucking whore. And it's so funny because me and a good friend had a conversation like a month and a half ago about this. We were driving in the car, and I was like, dude, I just want to be a whore. And he's like, me too. Me too. He goes, it's so hard. He goes, I just want to fuck everybody. And I was like, I know, man. I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I said, it's just so much fun. Because I was talking about how much I love whores. Because Doc does. If you listen to any of the podcasts, I love whores. And I've told this story a million times. But then I was just like, can you have a committed relationship and still be that way? You know what I mean? Does that fit? But can you get married and still be polyamorous? You ever see Penn and Teller Bullshit? It was a great show that was on Showtime. Mm-hmm. They actually did a whole episode on this, where they showed two different couples. They showed a man and a woman that were married, and then she brought in another man, and then her and her husband didn't want to have kids, but she was ready. So she had kids with the other guy. And it worked. It was so bizarre. Like, they had this little beautiful kid running around the house, and they were all raising this kid. And then there was another group of people where they just got to an age like 45, 50, and they're just like, hey, I still love you, I still want to be married, but guess what? I want a boyfriend or I want a girlfriend. And they did it, and it worked. So who's to say that this doesn't work?
I think you need to put value on your words when you start getting to that point. People get married, and there's a certain amount of expectation that comes from marriage that people don't fulfill, even as monogamous people and polyamorous people. So I don't think not fulfilling your role as a husband or a wife is limited to anybody. I think that when you've gotten to that point, that person has accepted a certain amount of needs that they're going to have to fill or things that they're going to provide. Versus if you just have like a girlfriend or a boyfriend, like there's so much less stress on that relationship. And you really have to decide when you're ready for those things and who you're going to be doing that with. You also have to be okay with potentially having an extra person move in with you. And some people cannot do that. They want to live alone.
I mean, in the book, it talks about people having separate bedrooms, you know, when they're married and in this relationship, because it can be kind of awkward if you want to bring somebody to your bed that you share with your husband or your wife. So,
I don't really know what that's going to look like for me when I get there. I have two sides of me. And there's one side that is like, I really want to be someone's wife right now. And I think that's just part of me, like being a people pleaser, is I want someone to think of me as so great that they would wife me, so to speak.
I don't think that's what it's called, but I like it. Can you wife me, please?
Can I? Anyway. Then there's the other part of me that is logically, that doesn't make sense. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a housekeeper, and I don't want to like have virtually no skills. You know, I want to develop myself a little more before I get to that point. I know as soon as I do get married, I'm going to want to have kids. It's just going to be like boom, boom. Like there's not going to be a whole lot stopping it for me. So I do know that when I've decided that I trust someone enough that I will marry them and start sharing property and assets and whatever that's going to look like I have the utmost trust in them. And I have a lot of trust issues because of my monogamous relationships. So I don't want to make it to where I have so much pressure on this relationship either. Like, I just want to trust it. I don't want to fear it. I want to know that if I fall, there will be someone there to help me back up. But I'm not going to expect a whole bunch out of them, I think, right now. Because I don't want to get married.
Not yet.
Right now.
You're too young. You're too young. Don't even consider it. All right, last question. Somebody, if they're interested in getting into this lifestyle, what would you suggest beyond reading the book?
Remembering that you are the most important person in your own relationship. I think you gotta be very clear with yourself on what you want, and you can't hide from it. And also understanding forgiveness. I don't feel like people forgive enough.
I agree. I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do in this world is to say, hey, you fucked up. It's okay. Because we hold that in ourselves. A lot of the time we have anger or hatred towards somebody or animosity. It's only affecting us. It's not affecting them in any way, shape, or form. They don't care. And so all you're doing is allowing yourself to poison yourself over and over again in a mindset. Forgiveness is one of the most freeing things on this planet. You don't even have to tell the person. Most of the time you shouldn't. Because you could get pulled back into whatever they're involved with that gave you that pain to begin with. But when you let go of it and you say, I forgive them to yourself and truly mean it, it's hard. But once you get to that point, like, you can move on and you won't be sitting there consumed by whatever terrible thing they specifically did to you. You'll come to acceptance, which we talked about earlier, and you'll just be like, you know what, I'm ready to move on with my life and let's go to the next phase. You know, there's something that was taught to me when I was younger. I worked at Wendy's. I know it sounds so weird, but I carried a lot of pain from my first relationship. A lot of pain. And I carried it for a long time. And I was just hurting so bad. And I looked to my boss, who I knew had been in a relationship and still struggled a little bit. And I said, hey, Don, does it ever get any easier? And I didn't even say what I was talking about. I just looked at him and said, does it ever get easier? He goes, not easier, he goes, but you start to focus on the good instead of the bad. And I took that to heart. And it really changed me because I would look back on all that pain all the time. And eventually I was like, let go of the pain. Think about the good things that happened in that relationship and forgive. And now even terrible relationships I was in, I can look back and be like, well, that day was great. That moment was great. That time she did this was really cool.
And you appreciate the person for who they are, no matter how great or negative they are.
For me, I appreciate the moments, and I was lucky to be with some of the people. Not all of them, but some of them. But they taught me a lot. Oh boy, did they teach me a lot. And that's important too. But forgiveness, so good. Don't hold a grudge.
It's not worth it.
No. But other than that, is there anything else you want to talk about on this? Got your thoughts out?
Yeah. It's a little more organized. And now that it's out there, I feel stronger in my beliefs.
Good. I'm going to say this. I'm thinking about giving it a go. I'm not going to lie. It really has spoken to me. I will see how that goes. But like my mindset, there's a clearness that I did not have before. There was a fear that was holding me back in a lot of ways. And now I don't feel that way because, like I told you earlier, my interactions with people are different. And the book itself, I suggest everyone read it. The Ethical Slut. Call yourself a whore if you want. I think that it's powerful. And you're going to come up against it because you're caught in this barrier of monogamy. That's the way you were trained to think. And you said it best. You have to untrain yourself because it is something that is put into you as you grow up. So this is outside the bounds of what's normal.
Uncharted territories.
It's totally fine. And then also, once you get in here, freaks and kinkiness all around, too. So I like that a lot. I think that's great. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Cely, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. So bye, y'all.
Bye.
And there it is, everyone. Thank you again, Cely, for joining me on this episode of I Hate Being Sober. I hope this has been enlightening to those who listened. If polyamory is something you're interested in, please do your research and see if this lifestyle might fit you. You never know. If it does, maybe you give it a try. And once again, thank you again for checking out the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcasts here on the We Are Podcast Network. We have We Are Error, where we talk movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, and that's Hobbs. We're breaking down pop culture, and we're having a blast. Also, We Are Bagu, a video game podcast where we talk Atari to Steam and everything in between. That's me and Dr. Ethan E. breaking down that video game knowledge, having so much fun. Also, you can check out Heroes Gyros, a Dungeons and Distractions side quest. Me and the boys were playing some D&D, and you gotta go to the beginning of the campaign and hear all these crazy adventures. Check out our social media. All links can be found in the description. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at /We Are Podcast. And if you enjoyed this podcast today, please share it with your friends. That is the only way we can grow this channel. I really do appreciate you checking out I Hate Being Sober today. But I got a question for you. Are you sober? Are you? We'll see you next time.